I never thought I'd see my own house surrounded by flashing red and blue lights for something I didn't do. That morning started like any other. Coffee on the porch, sun reflecting off the lake, the world peaceful. Until Officer Daniels walked up my driveway and said words that froze me solid. "Sir, you're being accused of vandalism on HOA property." I laughed at first. It sounded absurd. Me? The quiet guy who mows his lawn twice a week and waves to everyone? But then he handed me photos, grainy images of someone spray painting. Down with HOA across the community pool wall. The person in the picture wore my jacket, my hat, and even drove a truck just like mine. That's when I realized someone set me up. And in our neighborhood, there was only one person with both the motive and the nerve to pull this off. Karen Fletcher, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. She'd fined me 3 times. In 1 month for improper grass. Height. She'd complained about my dog's barking tone. And last week, she'd threatened to have me banned from community meetings after I called her out for using HOA funds for personal landscaping. Now she had the perfect way to silence me. When the cops left, I stood in my garage, staring at my truck. Every inch matched the one in the photos, except one small detail, the dent on the left fender. The truck in the picture didn't have it. Someone had used a copy. That's when I noticed something else. Security cameras. My neighbor's house across the street had one pointing straight at the road. If I could get that footage, I could prove my innocence. But before I could even ask, Karen showed up at my door. Arms crossed, smirk on her face. "Hope you're ready for a big HOA fine. And maybe worse," she said. She walked away before I could reply. That smirk told me everything. I wasn't just her target. I was her example. So that night I made a choice. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd uncover every secret she'd buried. And I had no idea that my search for proof would uncover something far darker than vandalism. Something that would send Karen straight to prison. Because the fire that would change everything hadn't even started yet. The night of the fire started with the smell of smoke. Not from a fireplace or barbecue. This was thick, chemical, wrong. I stepped outside and saw orange flickers dancing across the trees, just beyond the HOA clubhouse. At first I thought maybe someone left a grill unattended. But as I ran closer, I saw it. Flames swallowing the entire clubhouse wall. The same wall that had been vandalized in those photos. The same wall that got me accused. People were screaming, neighbors grabbing hoses, trying to help. And in the middle of the chaos, Karen was standing perfectly still, arms folded, watching. Her face wasn't one of shock, it was satisfaction. She caught my eye, then walked away without saying a word. Later, as firefighters fought the blaze, I heard Officer Daniels talking to another cop. "Guess this seals it," he said. "That guy must have come back to finish the job." They were talking about me. The next morning, the local paper ran with the headline, "Joe Clubhouse Fire. Vandal suspect under investigation again." My phone didn't stop ringing. My boss put me on leave. My neighbors wouldn't even look me in the eye. But what Karen didn't realize was that the fire had burned away. More than wood and paint. It had burned through her lies. While everyone focused on me, I went back to my neighbor, Mr. Lewis, and begged him to check his security footage. He hesitated at first, didn't want to get involved. But when I told him, Karen might be framing me, he sighed and pulled up the clips. There it was. 2:13 a.m., a white SUV pulling into the clubhouse lot. Someone getting out wearing a hoodie. They moved fast, but for a split second, the camera caught their face in the headlights. Karen Fletcher, and in her hands, 2 gasoline cans. I froze. That was all the proof I needed. But I couldn't just hand it over. I knew Karen would find a way to twist it. So I made copies, hid them, and went to Officer Daniels in person. At first, he didn't believe me, until I played the footage right there on his desk. His jaw dropped. "Stay put," he said. "Do not talk to anyone." That night, I watched as police cars rolled up to Karen's perfect little lake house. She stood on her porch, pretending not to know why they were there. But when they cuffed her, I finally saw fear in her eyes. And that's when I realized the fire she started wasn't just outside. It was coming for everything she'd built. The morning after Karen's arrest, the neighborhood buzzed like a hornet's nest. People whispered in driveways, gathered in tight circles, pretending not to stare at me as I walked by. For the first time in months, their eyes didn't hold suspicion. They held curiosity, fear. But I wasn't celebrating. Because if Karen was willing to burn down a building just to frame me, I knew there had to be more. Later that day, Officer Daniels called me in for a follow-up. "You did good bringing that footage," he said, sliding a file toward me. "But this goes deeper than you think." Inside the folder were financial records, bank statements, HOA transaction logs, and expense reports. Every page told the same story. Karen had been siphoning money from the HOA account for years. Landscaping fees that didn't exist. Repairs that were never done. She'd embezzled nearly $300,000. The vandalism and fire weren't random acts. They were distractions. Smokescreens to hide her paper trail. She tried to cover it all by blaming you, Daniels said. Once you looked guilty, no one would question the books. My stomach twisted. All those fines she'd hit me with, all the arguments about community rules, they were never about control. They were about greed. Still, one thing didn't make sense. Why burn down the clubhouse? I asked. Daniels leaned back. Audit was scheduled for the next week. All the files were kept in the clubhouse office. So that was it. She torched the evidence, and she almost destroyed my life doing it. As the truth spread, neighbors started to come around. People apologized. Some even offered to testify about Karen's past threats. It was strange, seeing fear turn into guilt. But even as she sat in a holding cell, Karen still played her game. Her lawyer released a statement claiming I'd faked the footage, that I'd framed her out of revenge. She was trying to turn the whole story upside down again. When I saw that on the news, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it showed just how desperate she was. 2 weeks later, arson investigators found a half-burned set of documents near the lake behind her house. Insurance. Forms with her signature. She'd planned to cash in on the clubhouse fire. That discovery sealed her fate. I thought it was finally over, that I could breathe again. But I didn't realize that exposing Karen's lies was only the beginning. Because the deeper investigators dug, the darker her world became. What they found next shocked everyone, even me. When the investigators dug deeper into Karen's financials, what they uncovered turned a simple HOA scandal into a full-blown criminal case. It wasn't just the neighborhood. She had connections stretching across 3 other HOA boards in nearby communities. Each one showed the same pattern. Falsified repair contracts, fake invoices, inflated landscaping fees, all wired to shell companies in her name. Karen Fletcher wasn't just a nosy HOA president. She was running an organized fraud operation. The FBI got involved. I remember the day the agents arrived at her lake house to collect evidence. They carried boxes out for hours, ledgers, burner phones, external drives. Turns out the fire wasn't even her first attempt at covering her tracks. She'd destroyed documents before, but this time her arrogance made her sloppy. They found photos, emails, and records that tied her directly to every dollar that vanished. And the icing on the cake? A video of her bragging to a friend about how easy it is to make people believe what you tell them, especially the quiet ones. She was talking about me. I sat in the courtroom weeks later as she faced her charges. Arson, fraud, falsifying evidence, and attempted framing. The woman who once strutted around our neighborhood with a clipboard and a condescending smile now sat there in handcuffs, her face pale, eyes hollow. Her lawyer tried to spin it, saying she never meant harm, that she only made mistakes out of pressure. But when the prosecutor played the footage of her pouring gasoline near the clubhouse, the entire room went silent. Karen's expression didn't crack until she saw me in the witness stand. For the first time, there was no smirk, just fear. The judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison, citing premeditated destruction, malicious intent, and large-scale financial deceit. As she was led away, she turned to me and whispered, "You ruined me." But the truth was, she'd ruined herself long before I ever fought back. After the trial, the HOA board was rebuilt from scratch. Neighbors who once avoided me started waving again. The community felt lighter, freer. It wasn't just about the money or the fire. It was about taking back what one person's greed had poisoned. One evening, I sat by the lake, the reflection of the sunset on the water calm and gold. For the first time in months, there was peace. Karen's house stood empty across the shore, a silent reminder that no amount of control, lies, or power could stop the truth from surfacing. And as I watched the sky fade, I finally whispered to myself, she framed me for vandalism, but in the end, her own fire burned her world down. And that's how the woman who tried to destroy my life ended up behind bars for her own crimes. If you think justice was finally served, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you would have done if you were in my place.